YouTube fans? My name's Station, and today we back with today we're talking about Saints Row. Now I know some of y'all like, oh, Saints Row has gone down to the dumps. Basically, with the new one that just came out. So anyway, let's just start. And he's going to be talking about Call of Duty and Saints Row.
When comparing Volition Studios a decade ago to Volition Studios now, it seems pretty obvious to me that this studio is suffering from Rare syndrome. A studio that used to produce high quality titles with great storytelling and great gameplay, to no longer caring about producing a high quality product for consumers and just shitting out terrible games that aren't even worth looking at and are honestly a huge disgrace to the video game industry, as well as being a total show of disrespect to the millions of people who used to once love the games that you made, no longer caring about them, and just making whatever pile of shit that you think can print money. Luckily, in the case of Rare Studios, people have realized that this studio makes nothing but shitty games that aren't worth playing, so people don't bother playing their games, and people acknowledge that Rare is not Rare anymore. It's just
a
a
company that
shadow of
used
its
to
former
make
self,
Banjo
to put it nicely.
Kazooie,
Consumers were also
Fox,
unwilling to tolerate
and
the
Donkey
dip in
Kong,
quality
but
for
they
Infinity
stopped.
Ward titles.
Nintendo
Call of
owns
Duty
Donkey
4 and
Kong
Modern Warfare
now,
2
and
absolutely
Nintendo owns Star
revolutionized the
Fox.
first-person shooter genre and probably had one of the greatest impacts in the gaming
Oh
industry,
yeah,
Call
Call
of
of
Duty
Duty.
4. Because that was the first game to actually push the envelope, break away from the whole World War II shooter phase that was going on back then. And they actually made a game that was unique, that had a great story, that had amazing gameplay, that completely revolutionized online multiplayer gaming for first-person shooter games, and was responsible for so many games being created. If it weren't for Call of Duty 4, we wouldn't have gotten Battlefield 3, which was made to compete against Call of Duty. We wouldn't have gotten so many great games that were inspired by Call of Duty 4. Call of Duty 4 and MW2 were such amazing games, which is something that most people who hate the new Call of Duty games agree on. When you look at Call of Duty Ghosts and Infinite Warfare, which were the two most recent games that Infinity Ward has developed, it becomes pretty hard to believe that this is the same company that made Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and the Modern Warfare games. Well, that's actually because they are not the same team. When the founders of Infinity Ward, Jason West and Vince Zampella, left in 2010 after Modern Warfare 2, a whole shitload of employees followed them and left to join Respawn Entertainment. And Respawn Entertainment is the creators behind Titanfall and Titanfall 2. And you know what? I guess their games are slightly better than what the new Infinity Ward's creating, but not by much, really. I mean, is Titanfall really an innovative experience? Playing Titanfall and playing Infinite Warfare both put me to sleep. And that's really the main problem with modern first-person shooters. Not that they're necessarily bad games and that they're unplayable or anything like that. It's just that they're too boring. They use gameplay mechanics that have been used 20 times already and that we're bored of seeing. We want to see something new. And there's so much lack of innovation in the first-person shooter genre so much. That's why so many people just look down upon FPS games so much, because there's an incredible lack of innovation these days. There really is, which actually makes complete sense if you think about it, because a lot of first-person shooter franchises have taken so much inspiration from Call of Duty. But now that Call of Duty isn't really putting forward any new ideas and innovating anymore, then the entire industry is suffering from that, because these games are typically inspired by Call of Duty. They don't really have any inspiration to draw from, because Call of Duty is pretty much dead now. Let's face it, the latest offering in the Call of Duty series is taking us back to World War II.
I know some of
where
y'all
this problem started in the first place with first-person shooter games, being too inspired from World War II and not doing anything else. So now we're going back to World War II. Great. But studios like Rare were not the first to become nothing more than a shadow of their former selves, and studios like Infinity Ward, Treyarch will not be the last. But the thing about Infinity Ward and Rare and Treyarch and all these other studios that used to make amazing games and don't make such amazing games anymore, typically the consumer is able to recognize this, acknowledge that these studios are but a shadow of their former selves and the new games that they make are absolute shit, and these studios typically suffer as a result of this. Compare the sales of
To
Infinite
me,
Warfare
I
to
think
Modern Warfare.
Infinite Warfare,
You can't even
it was
compare it.
good,
But there's one
but it didn't have no
studio
story.
that for a
People
while was the exception to the rule, and that
need a
of course
story.
is Volition, the
And none of
developers
y'all
of
knew
the
that
Saints
is
Row series.
Houston.
I'm sure not all of my subscribers have played any Saints Row games,
I
but
played.
have at least heard of the
I
name.
played
Because the
Saints Row
Saints Row
2,
series is a
Saints Row
pretty
3.
big
I
deal in
haven't
the gaming
played Saints
industry.
Row 1
Each
yet.
installment of the series has sold
I
millions of
haven't played
copies
it yet, but I
and very
watched the
positive
story.
reviews. The first game in the Saints Row series was released way back in
I know
2006.
Saints Row's
Unfortunately, it was a 360
awesome.
exclusive and
I
still
know-
is a 360
I know Saints Row's a copy off GTA, but it was a pretty good game to me.
exclusive to this day, which is a shame because so many people are missing out on this amazing game. The story was absolutely amazing. Being a foot
Well, that's
soldier for
Tony.
a small gang in the city of Stillwater and eventually working your way up to
You
become
know,
a big
Tony
player.
is he's
The
a
writing
big
was
bodyguard.
absolutely amazing. I
that
actually grew
Johnny
an attachment to a lot of the characters
Well, no,
in the
your
game,
character killed.
which, you know, is actually pretty rare for me
keep
in
calling the
video
boss.
games,
Yeah,
honestly,
that's Tony
especially
right
open world video games.
That's
I
the
typically
John.
do not give a shit about characters in games because
And
they're not
that's,
well developed. But in Saints Row, they were. Julius, Johnny Gat, Aisha,
Troy.
Lynn, Dex, Troy. I loved all of
That's
them. I thought they
Julius,
were all
that's
great
Dex,
characters.
that's
So
Lynn.
I absolutely love the
And
story. I
that's
love the
Johnny,
characters.
which, you know,
I
with
love
the
the
white
crazy
hair,
amount of
and Troy is the one
customization
with
that
the
Saints
purple
Row
line
had.
on the
Creating
black
your own
shirt.
character, different customization with clothing,
See, that's
vehicle
what I like
customization. The
about some games,
customization in Saints Row was
like
absolutely insane.
vehicle
Especially
customization,
being able
all
to
that.
create your own character. That was just that was really amazing. The game
And
also
2K.
had online multiplayer, competitive multiplayer that was really fun. And overall, it was a great
don't
experience. It
need
was a
cars
great
to
game.
download 2K,
And it's a
though.
real shame that they never
To just
ported it
play
to the
basketball.
PS3 and the PC, despite Saints Row's
But I like how they
continued
gave you
success in
bikes
later
on
installments.
2K.
I really think that was a missed opportunity. They would have made a lot of money if they ported Saints Row 1 over to the other systems, other platforms, because Saints Row 2 came out on all platforms
Dang.
2 years later in 2008
That's what I like.
and was
This
honestly, in my
game
opinion,
reacts
an
with
even
purple.
better game than the first Saints Row.
think
The
Thingy
second
said
Saints Row
that
game
was a purple
had you in the
game.
same city you were in the first one, but it takes place about 5 years after the events of the first game. So that gave them plenty of opportunity to change some aspects of the city, you know, change some of the design a
some
little
y'all
bit,
dumb
and
dads
just
and
make it almost
young
like a
games
completely
in real
different
life.
city.
I
The
don't
city
know
is
the
almost
name
like
on it.
completely remodeled, and it looked honestly, it looked beautiful.
they're
It looked
real.
beautiful. It pretty much took all the great things about the first Saints Row game and just made it even better. Even better customization options, even better writing and storytelling,
That's
and
Julius.
even better,
That's
Stillwater.
the guy
Stillwater in
that
Saints
had
Row
the,
1 was really good.
vibe,
I liked the city,
thing that
but
he's
it
wearing
was just
right now
even more
with the
vibrant
dude.
and more full of
He looked
life
young
than the first one. There were so many more things you were able to do. There were all these different nightclubs and other buildings that you were able to go into
That's true.
compared to the first one. Like, there were more buildings that you can go into and more stuff that you were able to do, more places you could go to in the
that's why
second Saints Row game
I
than the first
create
one.
my character.
Point I'm
See,
trying
you
to
ain't
make is
going
that
with
in Saints Row 2, they
Okay.
took all the good from the first game, made it even better, and just added in so much more stuff
know
to the
what
second
they
game
call it,
than the
but
first game.
cool.
It was the first Saints Row game that allowed you to fly and, you know, be in boats and shit. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's an amazing sequel. Amazing. Probably one of the best game sequels ever.
Yep.
So, considering how much of an upgrade Saints Row 2 was compared to Saints Row 1,
Yeah, Saints Row 2
I
made
expected
me
the same
not
thing to happen
want to
in
play
Saints
that
Row the
game
3rd,
'cause how
Saints Row
much
3.
story.
But unfortunately,
Oh, no.
that did not happen, and Saints Row the 3rd was the beginning
And that's
of
why
the
people
downfall
say,
of the Saints Row series.
and that's why people say Saints Row 3 was the one that messed it up.
And when I
Saints
mean
Row
downfall,
4.
I don't mean financially, because Saints Row the 3rd is the best-selling Saints Row game in the series, which is absolutely incredible to me because Saints Row 3 is objectively worse than Saints Row 2 and Saints Row 1. It was the first Saints Row game with no competitive online multiplayer. It only had co-op. The campaign was significantly shorter in Saints Row the 3rd than it was in the other two games. Saints Row 1 was about 17 and a half hours long. Saints Row 2 was about 20 hours long. And Saints Row the Third is 15 hours long. Now, that might not sound like too much of a downgrade to you. Okay, it's just a 5-hour difference from the second game and only a 2-hour difference from the first game. Not really a big deal. And I would agree with that if it weren't for the fact that the main story missions in Saints Row the Third were just side missions from the original two games. Oh, and I didn't even talk about the story and the writing
Oh
and the
yeah.
characters. It's downright pathetic what they did.
It would have been
in Saints Row
perfect
the
if they
Third.
put
It
Dex.
felt
If none of
less
y'all
like a
know
true
Dex
sequel
is,
and more like a spin-off. For
let
crying out
somebody in the
loud, your
comments
character
say,
in
like,
Saints
Dex,
Row 1 and
he's
2
a character,
is a
look him
goddamn
up.
sociopath who kills
He's the
literally
guy that wears the
anybody
purple
that
thing
stands in
with
his
the
way.
jean jacket
So
on.
he goes from
That's him.
that
So
to
basically,
a celebrity that
Dex,
kisses babies? Why the hell
on
would the
Saints Row
public
2,
get behind
he's pretty
someone
cool.
who's
He's
responsible
rich.
for
He
the
works
murder
for
of probably
Ultra,
thousands of
which
innocent
is his
people?
secret.
Oh, yeah, no, now he's a celebrity.
Corporation
And
that
on top
messed
of
up
that,
Saints
there are
Row
pretty
2.
much no
Basically,
serious
I wanted
elements to the
that
story
to
of
be
the game,
Saints Row 3.
which
I
doesn't
wanted
make it worthy of being called a
to-
Saints Row game, because
Well, I
Saints
didn't
Row
care,
1 and 2
'cause I still
had a
liked
mixture
it.
of humor and seriousness. Both were very vital to the overall flow of the game, and if you take away one, then the game is
I ain't
just
gonna
not
talk
Saints
over it.
Row. I'm sorry to say, but it's not. Just take a look at this incredible scene from Saints Row 2.
I don't take much pleasure in this.
Then let me go.
That
And that's
depends on you.
Johnny's girlfriend. Everybody should
Aisha
know
doesn't
that.
care that I'm stopping by, does she?
Fuck no. Aisha doesn't go out much. She loves company.
Thanks. That's
You're gonna kill me, aren't you?
If
That's
you're
all.
calm, help us find the money and do what I say. I give you my word you will live.
That ain't gonna happen, man. If she didn't
Is you home?
speak, then she would live, but that's a strong girl, though.
Johnny, it's a trap!
Damn.
Aish!
Nearly blew up all over the paint. Kill him, man. Kill him. Oh. Katanas, they're strong. Something's strong. My cousin, Tristan, he has one. I think he moved to his room is not even, he moved. His moved to his girlfriend. I'm thinking like, he's not epic he gets.
Gat, get out of the way.
That's how epic it gets. Cause you got old John's dead. What the heck? What's this now? What's this? It's like, oh, he's gonna die. Do you know how strong Johnny is? Come on, man.
The scenes in Saints Row 2 are filled with suspense, drama,
Yeah.
and action all in
Especially
one.
like if
There
you
were
watch
definitely
the scene
many
with him and
humorous
his
aspects
girlfriend,
of Saints
he
Row
killed
2.
his
There were
girlfriend.
plenty of funny moments
And
in
put
the
her in the
story,
trunk,
but that's
and
for
then
anything. There are funny
the
moments
red
in Game of
guys, they
Thrones. There are
showed up.
funny
Well, they
moments in
called
other
the
serious
Mustang.
storylines.
They
Doesn't
showed
mean
up.
that humor was
They
always a
were going
major
around more with
focus of the game's
Mustang.
overall presentation, because it never was. And I'm only mentioning this because the creators of Volition claimed that, well, we always planned for Saints Row to become an over-the-top game.
Yeah.
Even though Saints Row 1 was completely serious, there was barely any funny aspects of it at all. It was a pretty serious game, pretty serious